You need to be able to notice your self-biases and your double standards. The standards you set for yourself are usually very different than the standards you set for others. You're very quick to criticize others, but then when you yourself make those same mistakes or violate those certain rules and boundaries, you don't criticize yourself. These are double standards that you set. Your whole mind is built upon these sorts of double standards. These double standards even exist within academia, within science. For example, scientists will criticize religious people for believing in authority or making appeals to authority, such as like, well, a religious person will say, well, God exists because the Bible says so. And then the scientist will say, but that's just a book. You're appealing to authority. Okay, fine. That's a reasonable criticism to make of religion, but then do you apply that same standard to yourself, to science? Because see, when I start to question science, and I start to question the foundations of science to you as a scientist, what are you going to do? You're going to resort to appeals to authority as well. You're going to say, well, but physics says this, and Einstein said that, and Newton said this, and my college professor said that. Okay, but what is that? That's just appeals to authority. Most of what science is just appeals to authority. But see, because you are not good at feeling inwards, you're not going to admit that. You're going to make excuses. You're going to say, oh, well, but this is different. You know, Leo, how dare you compare believing in the Bible as the same thing as believing in a physics textbook or believing Albert Einstein or believing my college professor? These are not the same thing at all. These are legitimate appeals to authority. Yeah, you see, but these are double standards that you set, and you're unable to recognize that because you're so externally focused that you're not able to feel into it, to feel these double standards. One of the most important things I did when I was young and got into epistemology and got into really thinking about the nature of science, religion, and reality and how human knowledge works is that I was quite good at feeling inwards. During various arguments and debates I had with religious people, because I was a scientific materialistic atheist at that time. And I would argue with religious friends and others who were like fundamentalist Christians and so forth. And I could clearly see that the way they were behaving was not intellectually integrous. They were using various kinds of double standards and they were being biased in their arguments. I could clearly see that in them. But then I started noticing that when I was parroting scientific beliefs and ideas to them to counter their arguments, that I too was on a meta level also engaging in this kind of lack of intellectual integrity. I was just parroting science at them, and I was using various kinds of double standards, and that the arguments I was using against them, I wasn't fully applying to my own self. And I could feel that, and I could see the wrongness of that. And that was the only thing that was really able to allow me to go beyond science. Otherwise, I would have just been lost in materialism for the rest of my life, right? That was the crack that opened the door to skepticism of science and materialism for me. And that got me to question not just religion, but got me to question everything, including physical reality, like everything. Because I saw how the arguments made by scientific materialists themselves were deeply circular in their logic and had gaps in them. That doesn't mean that the religious fundamentalists are correct. They are even more deluded than the scientific materialists and atheists and skeptics. But I could even see the flaws and the gaps within skepticism itself. And that is the key. It's that ability to feel inwards and to introspect that was the key that allowed me to ultimately jailbreak my own mind. But you see, most scientists aren't able to do this. Religious people, of course, aren't able to do this as well. Skeptics, rationalists, atheists, they're not able to do this. And yet they poo-poo this idea of feeling inwards. Yet this is the one thing that will save you. You need to be able to notice when you hold a belief, and that a belief is a belief, and to be able to distinguish a belief from reality and from experience. For example, most people do not have enough introspection skill to notice and to admit to themselves that the planet Mars is a belief. Are you getting this? You scientists, you materialists, you skeptics and atheists and rationalists, are you getting the significance of this? The planet Mars is a belief. The continent of Antarctica is a belief. Are you seeing this? Don't argue with me. This is not a logical debate we're trying to have. For you to see that, you need to be able to introspect. The only way you can understand what I'm saying, the significance of what I'm saying, is to introspect and to feel inwards and to notice what is a belief. See, most scientific and materialist people, they think that belief is just like some sort of myth to believe in God or some flying spaghetti monster or to believe in unicorns or to believe in angels. That's belief. Mars is not a belief. Antarctica is not a belief. But look in your experience. What is the difference between Santa Claus and Mars in your experience? Forget what other people are telling you. Look in your experience. Feel inwards. To feel and to notice, to observe with your direct consciousness that the planet Mars for you is a belief. See, this is not a point to argue. It's something that you look and see for yourself. Another thing you should notice when you're introspecting is when you're being dishonest and when you're lying. Of course, when you're lying to others, it's important to see that. But even more important than that is when you're lying to yourself. Most people don't have enough introspection skill to notice when they are being dishonest with themselves. And usually when you lie to others, you have to lie to yourself first. How do you know when you're being dishonest? You feel it. You can feel the dishonesty. It has a certain dirty quality to it. You don't even want to look at it. That takes skill. That takes practice to notice when you're being dishonest, when you're lying to yourself. The only way you're going to be able to do it is by practicing it. You're going to fail many times, of course, at noticing it, but then over years, you'll get better at it. Also, you should notice why you lie. What is sourcing or motivating your lies and your dishonesty? That is very fruitful to notice, because that would be how you would undo the lying and the dishonesty, by working on the root sources and causes of that.